This episode of Unaccountable is brought to you by Keeper. I mean, it's 1099 season soon. As January approaches, it's that time of year where we all start pulling out our hair and gouging out our eyeballs over the administrative workload that is collecting W-9s and issuing 1099s. Well, at this point, you've probably heard of Keeper, maybe from their stark raving fans or the unaccountable host who just gushes over them nonstop. Keeper's a practice management tool that's built to focus on the bookkeeping community in the month-end close process. And Keeper's 1099 tools make it incredibly easy to gather all the W-9s you need and know that when you need to issue a 1099, it's correct. This has personally saved me and my team hours of work each month and years of our life in stress every single year. If there's ever been a better time to save money and use that extra time to grow your business, it's right now. Get started with Keeper by going to unaccountable.co/keeper. That's unaccountable.co/keeper. Welcome to Unaccountable, the world's okayest accounting game show podcast for product news, updates, and education. I am your marine mammal of a host, and I'm joined by the sea squall of a partner in crime who also writes our intros some of these weeks, and I don't even realize what he's put out here. I am joined by Jeremy Van Grohl. Do you care to explain yourself?
I do. Well, you said, and we'll get to this, you said you signed some marinas this week, and you're very interesting week. So I want to hear all about that. But that also led to me, like, if you were an accountant and you had a boat, what would be some good names for your boat? Did we do this already? I don't think so. So I went out to our friends in the AI world. A couple of good ones I like. Just going to go through real quick.
Please do.
The taxation. Liquid assets.
Okay.
I like this one. Offshore accounts. Yep. Buoyancy sheet.
Not bad.
Yeah, not bad on that one. The other one I liked was LIFO boat and cash flotation. And then this one I thought was the most creative, and it starts with a K, not material. I thought that one was fantastic.
I love that.
What is material is you've had a week. Let's get a rundown.
Well, okay, so Jeremy and I don't just talk on this podcast. You know, we lie awake at night while our wives are trying to sleep, just, talking on our headsets. And all that being said, Jeremy's referring to, it's just been a weird week because I had an employee that's like under a month and a half in, quit. And then I had one client that we fired just because it wasn't good for my staff. But then I signed 5 new clients in that marina. Because all of a sudden, we have hotels with marinas, and now marinas are just coming to us. And then, I had another client right after I fired one. Another one quit because their cash flow is awful, and they're having to take it in-house. It's just been one of those weeks, dude, where, overall, I think we're net up on clients, and I'm not losing sleep over the employee because, they weren't fully trained up. Everything wasn't good. Okay, we're fine. We'll move on. But, dude, it's just sometimes a whirlwind, bro.
It is. Do you exit interview employees? Did they say anything, or do you know why they left?
Yeah, they said they listened to my podcast, and they're there's a job opening at nonprofit bookkeeping. They seem like they have their act together. And so they were much more, they just said there's better companies out there.
Yeah, I mean, there is. That's not.
Little do they know.
Yeah, right.
But Jeremy, there's also fun stuff that happened in the news this week, not just my little fiefdom.
Yeah, and we're going to hit through these fast because we have a great guest coming on today. And also a game I'm really looking forward to. So let's hit some things. So I'm going to start with the tariffs, right? Yep. They weren't there, then they were back. But now even some of those, like the car one, isn't going to happen right away. That's delayed just today. That's delayed by another month. So I don't even think we need to get in this because keeps changing so much. The one thing I wanted to say is if you have clients that source materials outside of the U.S., you better have a system in place to be able to track where they're getting things and be able to know and report out on that easily because it's coming sooner or later in some fashion. Be prepared.
Yep.
Okay?
Prices are great. Jeremy, I mean, in that vein, with all the tariffs and what's not in the stock market, I used to be talking about how much I loved Monarch. You and I both put ourselves on it. Now I hate Monarch because every time I look at it, I see that I lost $16,000 in investments in the last 2 days. My 401k is just tanked. Monarch is making me depressed now.
Oh, that's what's going to happen sometimes, right? It goes up, goes down. All right, let's hit the next one. So probably the hottest topic out there right now, DOGE and all it's doing. And I don't
Yeah.
even care what your position is on it, good or bad, but the accounting that they've had has been awful. And this, I read through all of these things. So originally they had a list that was ridiculous and not coming up at the moment. But like, since then, when people got into it, so many changes has been made to it. So like originally they said there was like an $8 billion cut to immigration and customs enforcement. That was really $8 million. There was a $655 million USAID program that was on the list 3 times. And another one was like $232 million that was reported that for some DEI things, where it was really only like $500,000 that they were trying to put in that you could choose an X instead of putting your gender on things. So just fraught with errors. Other things you've heard is like people have come up and said like, hey, I'm a contractor for the government. I see my contract on that. That was actually done in the previous administration, or it just expired at the end of the year and shouldn't be on there anyway. So again, like I've had to track similar things at organizations. Get the accounting right.
Yeah, at least give me good numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, whether I'm stoked they're cutting all this money or furious, whether I'm right and I'm on the right side and happy that we're saving money, on their left I'm outraged. Like, at least I want good data. Give me something.
Give me something that's right. And like, who's tracking? Oh man. All right, 2 more. Next one to hit. IRS laid off 6,700 workers right during the middle of tax season, and it reportedly has plans to potentially cut the staff in half, and that's like a 40,000 person figure during the middle of tax season. And we've harped on this before. This is where we get the most revenue as a company. Wow. That's all I can say. Like, I don't know what else to say on that one.
I struggle. I think back to my corporate hotel days when we had to slash the budget and every department got cut. We did not cut sales staff. We're like, nope, we're keeping that strong. We got to keep money coming in. Like, that was always my thing. Keep the money coming in.
And for our industry too, thinking that like, I always want to get the right information out there with all the things, right? But if I am not an accountant right now and I see that the IRS is going to have half as many resources, I'll be like, whatever, throw it out there. How are they going to catch this, right?
My risk of audit was already nothing, and now it went to half of nothing?
Yeah.
Am I actually going to file taxes? No.
Oof, it's tough.
And your last one?
Last one is the the new administration no longer going to follow the Corporate Treasury Act that started the beneficial ownership information requirement. So it was there, then it wasn't, then it was. Get it in by the end of December, January, right? Now they're not going to follow it anyway. So I don't know. I didn't want to do that one anyway, but I did. But yeah.
Is BOI like fetch? Like, is this Regina George telling them stop trying to make fetch happen? Is that how we view BOI now?
Yes.
That is so fetch. Gretchen, stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Oh, I love it. Oh, so much going on.
Jeremy, another week. We're back to having guests. And I want to ask you, what do the cast of Gilligan's Island and our next guest have in common?
Did they do 3-hour tours somewhere?
I mean, I would argue both got lost and ended up somewhere they didn't want to be, but Seth is here. We are stoked to have him. We have Seth Fineberg, owner of Accountants Forward. Seth is the writer extraordinaire for the accounting industry. You go looked at his LinkedIn, you're probably going to have a bookmark so that you can leave your place there and then come back and finish later. The guy has been around the industry writing for decades. I mean, we're going to get into it so much, I don't want to spoil any of the future conversations. So welcome to the show, Seth Fineberg. Hello, sir.
Yeah, Tyler, Jeremy, thanks so much, guys. I really just appreciate a chance to talk on anything regarding the accounting profession. I feel like, I don't know, I guess Jane Goodall or any of the aforementioned anthropologists who just spend decades among, they're in the wild, they're with, gorillas and chimps and all kinds of flora and fauna. And they just, so for me, I've been observing accountants for that amount of time. As a business journalist, it was just a career move that landed me smack in the middle of the jungle of accounting. And
And unlike gorillas, we have worse grooming standards. So,
I just, I feel like I've just been accepted among the great, characters that call themselves professional accountants each and every day. And I chose to stay among them and serve them in my way as I was kind of given a capacity to do so as an independent. I've had editor titles over the years. I've had publishers that I've worked for. These days, as Accountants Forward, which is really, me and my business saying, okay, technically, yeah, I'm like a marketing consultant. I go in to work with companies and organizations that have or are in the process of establishing relationships with accountants. And I say, look, this is how to communicate with them. This is how they want to be communicated with. These are the vehicles that I think work best. These are the ways that I think are best. Here is where I think you need to be and how you need to be there. There's a lot of factors that play into how you truly help this profession move forward. And I think the relationships between the service providers and the organizations that want to also serve accountants, that relationship is the very thing that's going to help it move forward. The profession right now is, and has been for the last several years, at a point of inflection, to the point of where the very nature of what being an accountant is. I know this is very existential, but to call.
Well, we're going to get into all of this, so I don't want you to steal the answers to my questions here.
I'm just saying this is why I do what I do. Because I'm in at a point of major and great and hopeful change. And I just am doing my part in my corner of the world to see it progress.
I'm just thankful you lowered your standards to hang out with some shady characters as well today.
Hey man, whatever gets it done. I feel like I'm often in the background, and I kind of prefer to be there.
Yeah.
As much as I appreciate, you guys putting me on and having my voice, to the mix, I get it. We all, it's like whatever progresses things,
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Seth, we brought you in today to play our favorite game, Fast Figures. It is a game where we're going to ask you 10 questions, put a minute on the clock. All answers are numbers, and we're going to see how you do. Are you ready for it, sir?
I believe I am.
Welcome to Fast Figures. 10 questions, 1 minute-ish. All answers are numbers. The game starts now.
1 minute on the clock. Here we go. In 2002, British zombie classic, the protagonist Cillian Murphy wakes up nearly a month after societal collapse, or more specifically, how many days later?
28. And they have they have a sequel to it called 28 Years that's coming out too.
Yep. What is the maximum amount of spaces a pawn can move in a game of chess?
1. Well, 2 if you're attacking.
Within 20%, a snake on average eats animals what size compared to itself as a percentage?
A snake? It can be up to I would say 30% of its size.
Within 2 light years, how many light years away is the closest star to our sun?
Oh gosh, I pass.
Within 1 degree, what is a healthy temperature of your average human being in
They
Fahrenheit?
recently updated that. It's 97.9.
According to recent studies, in regards to water intake, a person should drink what percentage of their body weight in ounces? 25%, 50, or 75? So if you weigh 200 pounds, how many ounces should you drink?
I mean, the standard right now is about 64 ounces a day, but per body weight,
25, 50, or 75%?
25%.
The 2005 hit video game Burnout was released on both PlayStation 2 and which Xbox platform known by its all-encompassing number?
Pass. I don't know.
A small convenience store brand called Totem rebranded and is now known by this numbers-only convenience store brand.
I'm horrible with convenience store guys. I'm sorry.
No way. Or 2 more. What's the price of a Netflix premium subscription these days to the nearest $5?
I don't know, $24.99.
Within 1,000 feet, how many feet are in a mile?
Oh, it's 5,400 approximately.
Well done, Seth. How do you feel? Do you feel bullied after that? Because that was my favorite comment we ever got from someone, cyberbullied.
I feel like I got about 7 out of 10.
That's better than Jeremy and I on average.
Yeah.
So absolutely love it. Well, Seth, let's walk through this and we're going to talk through it. First one, you were very quick on the draw. The 2002 British zombie classic. Our protagonist, Cillian Murphy, wakes up nearly a month later. Exactly how many days? 28 days later. You are correct, sir. That's not the only thing that happened in 2002. You also started with Accounting Today in 2002, coming from the marketing industry. Why accountants? Why, like, you could have gone anywhere and you settled on a group of number pushers. Why us?
Like I said at the beginning, guys, it was a job. Like any job I've ever taken in my life. It's just, the topic was just something like, hey, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about this. And boy, am I glad that I stayed, because accounting is the lifeblood of business. It's what, if you don't know that aspect, if you don't know the bookkeeping aspect of accounting, of running a business, you're going to be in some trouble. And so it kind of found me. It was literally an ad that I had answered. I had been looking to make a move from, where I was at the time. I was actually kind of out on my own. Again, I was kind of in between some things, doing freelance writing. And I'm like, yeah, I would like to get back to full time. I was writing about, internet and interactive marketing and things like that, which was also something I fell into and got to know at a really early time, but, wasn't really paying the bills being a freelancer. So,
Yeah.
So
and it was
accountants
great.
here we
And
are.
our offices were like 7 blocks from my apartment. So it's like, okay, great.
There's
Also-
a lot of us in accounting that stumbled in.
Yeah. Also a smart financial decision, being able to walk to work. I mean,
Well, that's how it started out. And then,
Yeah.
I'm still here in New York City. I don't know if you guys knew that. I'm in New York. I'm in Manhattan. And yeah.
nice.
Well, thank you for staying. Question 2. What is the maximum amount of spaces a pawn can move in a game of chess? You correctly changed your answer to 2 because your very opening move, you can move 2 spaces. I love chess. It's the ultimate strategy game. And you now have built your career on being a consultant strategist for the accounting industry. Like, who are
Correct.
the customers coming to you to say, hey, help me speak accountanese and speak to this group of introverts and socially awkward number crunchers that we need to connect with?
It's been interesting, guys. Mostly it's, a lot of these, newer, or some of them are established businesses that are trying to have, accountant partner programs or accountant networks, or they just realize they're anyone looking to sell to or through accountants, as well as some organizations who, exist for the purpose of better connecting with accountants. And they might just need help with, some of the verbiage some of the things that they're putting out there. Like, perfect example, I produced a white paper that's going to be coming out probably this spring for Lineal Global. And I did some great amount of research to do that. And it was, kind of a write-up of a really, really amazing kind of workshop, think tank sort of day. And I can't wait for it to come out. Things like that. And then organically, sometimes firms themselves will reach out to me for some guidance, for some, hey, we were looking to get a newsletter going, or, can you take a look at our blog? So I'll do some of that, just kind of ad hoc, if you will. So that's kind of, people just reach out to me on LinkedIn. It's like, hey, I saw you posted this, saw you posted that. I'd love to pick your brain on so-and-so. And that's how I get a lot of the conversations that I have. People looking to pick the brain.
I look forward to the amount of people that are soon going to reach out to you like, hey, do you know any C-tier, poorly run podcasts that I can connect with? Because, like, now you've got a tool in your tool belt.
Right.
And I'm happy for you, man. I really am.
Yeah, thank you.
Question 3. Within 20%, the average snake eats animals what size compared to itself? So you had a 20% window. You said 30. The answer we found is 10 to 15. And while you're within 20%, well, whatever. We do minimal research on non-accounting things for this episode, but, snakes can consume things up to 100% of its own size. And that sort of gobbling up smaller to bigger animals is also what we're seeing in the accounting space right now, with bigger firms just gobbling up all the smaller ones and building these massive empires.
Well, thanks to private equity, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you foresee all of us little rodent firms getting eaten up soon, or do you think there's
No.
still a place for us to hide?
100%. And you shouldn't hide. I think that there's a place for you to thrive. There is endless opportunities for you to really redefine what it is that you do. And the more that kind of will put that stake in the ground and say, this is actually what I do, and this is what I stand for. The bigger firms aren't going to want to have anything to do with you, and that's fine. Look, the accounting profession here in North America, the vast majority are small. You talk about the top, 300, top 500, top 100, whatever. Everybody else is in this is the hundreds of thousands of firms. By my count, we're looking at about 1.3 or 4 million individuals that go to work every day as a professional accountant. We did this research at Accounting Web because we needed to sort of define who's the market, who's here, who are we talking about? So you're an enrolled agent, you're a professional bookkeeper, professional accountant, or a CPA. CPAs obviously are about maybe a third of all accountants, professional accountants out there. So you, as a professional accountant, whatever title or non-title you have after your name, have an opportunity to kind of say really how it is that you work, the kinds of services that you provide, and starting with the clients that you have. What is the return on that relationship that you have? So I wouldn't be worried about who's gobbling up who. I'm not a particular fan of private equity in the market, and we can get into that if you want, because I covered private equity for a living for a while. And, the one positive thing I could say about them is that they have not changed their stripes. You can pretty much know what the end game is. These are investors. All an investor wants to do is have a return on that investment, however they can. They see a great opportunity in the accounting field right now because they're like, wait a minute, these guys are making money year on year. AICPA publishes these numbers every year. We know what the revenue numbers are. We know what the salaries are. We know what I was actually surprised it took them so long to really start making their move. But I think the timing is such that you have a lot of the old guard, the old way of doing things, these traditional established firms that key partners are just looking to, they've aged out or they're about to, and they're just looking for that parachute, man. Sorry to belittle it, but if you're a partner in a firm or a senior partner, man, this is your golden goose egg right now. Everybody else, hey, it's in their hands now, guys. And it's just kind of sad because I think, ultimately, these money guys, people who come in and invest in companies, they don't necessarily know the business end of things, and they might change things in ways in order for them to maximize their profits that aren't part of the original founder's vision. And guess what? If you look at a lot of these look at the startup businesses that get VC. Not saying all of them, but a lot of them, ultimately you have the original founders or CEOs either stepping away eventually, or maybe taking a board seat and then eventually kind of going off. And you just kind of hand the keys to somebody else. And for a business, I don't know, I guess you can kind of do that. People kind of come up in the ranks and what have you, and there's still people who can carry that initial vision or can pivot to where a company needs to go. But in an accounting firm, that's not always going to be the case. I'm not saying that there won't be examples of private equity doing good for some firms, but for accounting as a whole, I just think it really should still be up to, the individual service providers whose passion for, why did you become an accountant? You became an accountant to help in your way, and you happen to understand the numbers side of things. It does start with numbers, but accounting is going to go so far beyond numbers. It's really going to be about how can I help with my knowledge. It's kind of like what I do each day. How can I use who I know and what I know to help you?
Yeah.
Sorry, mini rant there,
No,
but
that's fine. Jeremy, you look like you had something.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think as an account owner, firm owner that's been growing pretty well. You get this every day now from people, and you just see it and how they're trying to connect with you, the lack of culture there, and something that it's like, wow, this would be terrible for me to do for my clients and my team to take something like that. So I think you're right. And I think too, it just emphasizes how relationship based you need to be to maintain your little guy status with the big guys out there. I feel like it's a human thing. You need to connect with people, makes them very sticky.
Yeah, I mean, you have a vision. This is, accountants, you're running a business on your own. You're running a small business. You can choose to grow it in a number of ways. I mean, growth, I'm on the advisory committee for Accounting Today's upcoming conference called the Firm Growth Forum. And with growth in the title, people have different impressions of what that is. Sometimes it is size and people and scope.
Yeah.
Like, we want to be this size firm and have this size revenue by this time. Okay, that's growth. But sometimes you're adding more services or you're changing things up. Sometimes it's, okay, well, how do I get to a point of where I can have some kind of succession to maybe merge in or, pass the keys off to somebody else? That's growth as well. And
great thought.
Either way, you have an opportunity as, your little business, as you said, to grow in ways that are going to make sense, to you and also to your clients, because they always come first. And the more that you can surprise and delight, the more that you can do for them. You mentioned the stickiness, Jeremy. I mean, you don't get any stickier than that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great.
I wholeheartely agree. I love this. Moving on to the next one, just keep things rolling. Within 2 years, how many light years away is the next closest star? I think maybe the question was poorly worded because, again, C-tier podcast, you said 97 million. It is 4.25 light years away. And actually, I have no accounting conversation here. My kid just keeps telling me science facts, and that blows my mind that, it's that far away, the next galaxy. Yeah, we're forever alone in the solar system. So
Yeah,
that's all I got from it.
Yeah, the star. I mean, we have stars in our solar system, in the the Milky Way galaxy, but
Yep.
end
The
to
next
end,
closest
we're
star.
looking 100 million light years.
Oh, the man knows his stats. Someone's a Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah.
Apologist here. Next question. Within 1 degree, what is the average healthy temperature of a human being? I gave you 1 degree. The answer was 98.6, but then you're saying they update it and we don't do good fact checking, so we're just going to call it right.
Really?
You know how far back that goes and how randomly that number was even
Hit me with
chosen?
a quick fact.
170 years ago in Germany, some German, doctor basically surveyed about 25,000 people over a course of time. So you had basically the data was in the millions. It was enough that they felt, okay, average body temperature, 98.6. We've cooled off. So they've recently adjusted it to, I believe it was 97.9.
Wow, so there's a 90s band that needs to change their name now. But the question I wanted to get into was, that's how we measure health within humans. But for the metrics of how we identify what is a healthy accounting firm, what are you looking at as you talk to so many firm owners and you're going to be, I'll see you at Firm Growth Forum. How do we identify what the health metrics are for our firms?
Yeah.
I would say like any business, you look at your health the way that you look at the health of your clients. It starts with what? Cash flow. You don't understand what the cash flow is, you can't really get that a good read on the actual health, of the company, of your practice. So are you offering, a good mix of services, or is what you're offering, and these are just obviously numbers. There's financial health, but then there's also like the general pulse, the culture, the real human side of things, which gets forgotten so often. How often are you even checking in with your people? I don't care that you have 8 or 10 people working for you. If you were to ask each and every one of them, like, what's the culture here? They should be able to say pretty consistently what it is. That's a sign of a healthy firm, that they can say back to you and they feel comfortable enough saying back to you, the managing partner, the owner, the head cheese, that, yeah, like this is what I feel that I do. This is why I do it. This is what the culture is here. That's a healthy firm. Healthy firm also has clients who don't like eat up too much of your time, like more than you're willing to give.
Well, let me jump into our next question then, because that's going to tease this. Because, well, skip a question, because
Anyway,
first I asked you
those
just...
are the signs of a healthy firm to me.
Yeah.
Well, I love this last one, though, because this is not this next question, but the next one. I did ask you how many ounces of water a human should be drinking. Current science, you said 64 ounces, which changes by person. They say if you weigh 100 pounds, you should be drinking half of that in ounces. So if you're 200 pounds of weight, you should be drinking 100 ounces of water. If you're 150 pounds, you should be drinking...
That seems like a lot.
I'm just saying, here's your advice for the day from Specialized Accounting and Unaccountable. Seth, the question I did want to get to, because that's just total nonsense, but we asked you about the 2005 hit video game Burnout, which was released on PlayStation 2, and which Xbox console with an all-encompassing number you passed. It is Xbox 360. And Burnout is actually one of your topics you kind of love to talk about. If I understand correctly, you've been presenting on this last year within accounting firms. What are we seeing right now with burnout in firms?
So what we're seeing, and it's interesting, so Randy Crabtree and I from Trimeric Group, and he's also kind of the brains, the heart behind the Bridging the Gap conference. He had formed that with the idea, the purpose of, burnout prevention, but also taking a more holistic approach to what it is to be an accountant, the more human side. And burnout obviously is and has been something new, but it's a pretty big deal. And so in terms of, of prevention, you have to, like any part of your health, you have to be sensitive to it. You have to know when it's coming on. Too many accountants are out there today talking about it and have left the profession or thinking of leaving entirely because they don't have one core metric. I'm sure we've all heard the phrase, oh, we have to have better work-life balance, better work-life balance.
Yeah.
You have it wrong out of the gate because of what you're calling it. You're putting work first. Why aren't you saying that it needs to be life-work balance? Because in that scenario, mentally, verbally, whatever, phonetically, life is coming first. And then work kind of fits in there. Doing accounting, being an accountant, it's something that it's a chosen profession. It's a professional service. You're in the service profession. You're not trading stocks. You're not going door to door selling anything. You don't have a store. If anything, you're selling peace of mind, and you're selling yourself, your knowledge, your ability to care. Yeah, it's the relationship. So what are you getting out of it, and what are you giving to it? And so burnout comes when you're just not doing enough to take care of yourself, and you're letting the work things or even some life things get the best of you, and you're not really looking at all the signs.
I feel like it's hard for it's a very minority of
it's all
people
hard, dude. I mean, this is not
that.
like there's no magic wand to it, but it has to start at a simple point.
Yeah.
Start looking at these things. Start saying, you know what, maybe I have taken on too many clients. Historically, that's the accountant way. It's been volume. It's like a volume-based business. So I've been preaching value over volume. That way you don't have to work with as many people. And if you're not working with as many, you're able to do more and earn more and really show more of what you can do rather than it being kind of a churn.
Yep.
And with the coming of things like AI and newer technology applications out there, it's going to work with you. So hopefully, in theory, help reduce a lot of the time to do certain tasks, to give you that time back.
We need to intelligently keep that time to ourselves versus just adding to the pile.
Yeah, and
Jeremy, I don't know if we can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we had this argument back with debate back when the cloud automation is gonna give us all this time back, and then so the struggle is, well, what do we do? What are we to do with that time? And that's where things like advisory work has kind of come to bear. It's that the advice is that, well, you use that time to go, okay, you're not working on stuff, you're scheduling time in with your clients to say, okay, look, we've already gone over the past year, the past quarter. We've seen, we've filed the work that we need to. We've closed the books on certain things. Let's have a conversation about what's next.
Yeah.
That's advisory work. That little light bulb that just says, okay, let's have a conversation. Schedule it in. Here's my calendar. Let's talk. Then all of a sudden you're an advisor. And you're just getting more out of it because you're connecting with the other human at the other end, and you're really making a difference for them with, again, and, helping, obviously having platforms to help you out to do that are great too.
Yeah. Jeremy and I have both shifted our firms to higher price clients as well, and it's been a game changer. I'm going to keep this game rolling because I do want to get your thoughts on a few more. Once a small convenience store brand, Totem, they rebranded and are now known as This Numbers Only Convenience Store. The answer we were looking for was 7-Eleven. Everyone knows and loves 7-Eleven, but also, I know, you've been on the record as touting for at least a year now that accountants are due for a rebrand. I mean, once upon a time, it was you talk to us at tax season, maybe a little bit of bookkeeping. Now there's HR, there's advising, there's operational concerns, there's a little bit of legal, though we don't want to tote over that. Like, what have you seen over the last couple of years that has warrant what it means to be an accountant shifting?
Well, we started talking about it. I mean, I think being an accountant is ultimately going to be beyond just numbers. It's the advice that you give. You're going to be becoming a lot more of a coach, a lot more of a true guide for people's, businesses and even their financial lives. Along with that was, this exhaustive research that did happen, and it kind of got me thinking. It was at AICPA Engage last year, and it's this big study that was done over I guess a couple of years. They came out with talking about burnout numbers and just and also the amount of accounting professionals that are leaving. The big conclusion was, well, accountants just need to tell a better story. And it got me thinking. I'm like, tell a better story. I'm like, I think they kind of got it wrong. I said, accounting, you can't just change the narrative like that. You need to, there's core things about this profession that need to change. And that's why I was talking about this rebrand, Tyler. You need a better story to tell. So go back to why it is that you got into accounting, what your ultimate goal was, and build from that. And I guarantee you, it wasn't to work as many hours as many of you work. It wasn't to be, serve as many clients as you can. It was to help, right? With the knowledge that you have and using the systems that you have, the best of systems that you have available to you. From that point, you can completely change the narrative from there with how you work. When we have a profession that is reflective of the environment that we're in, that is balanced and diverse and beautiful, if you have a profession that works on the latest tools to help save you time, when you have a profession that is ultimately giving the best of itself to help grow other businesses and give you something back, some feeling of I can still also live my life and work in a way that it works for me as well as the firm that I work for or own. Don't get set from the top, people. So this is all the firm managers out there. It's really kind of up to you because the future leaders, that's what they want to see. Otherwise, they'll just go off and do something else. They'll either start their own firm or they might leave accounting all together. And that would be a sad thing.
Wholeheartedly agree, sir. Two last questions for you. First is, what is the price of Netflix's current premium subscription? After a couple guesses, you landed on $24.99. Exactly, nail on the head. And, you are also someone that's been around, if you had to succinctly state it, what has the change from accountants going from just hourly billing to subscription pricing done as you've watched us evolve, the chimps you're living among over the last 20 years?
Look, not enough of them are doing it, in my view, They're doing some kind of half measure of it, but it's really all about getting your time back. I mean, the hour, look, if you've interviewed Ron Baker and Ed Kless, like they've said it all that needs to be said. They're like, you're doing yourself a disservice because you've taken the value of you and the work that you're doing out of the equation, and you're just looking at blocks of time and putting a number behind that. Just stop it. Got to make plans to move away from that. You're talking about things like fixed fee. Okay, that's the half measure. Somewhere from there, even fixed fee doesn't quite do it. It doesn't quite say what the value of you is. Take some courses, talk to some folks who have done it, whatever you need to do, figure out a better structure for your business. You deserve it. I do it in my business, and I've learned from some of the best out there. So when I price out what I do, I'm pricing it based on, the time that I put in, but also the value of me. What's up here?
Yeah.
Who I know, like everything that I'm going to put into working, with you is behind the prices that I charge. It's all based on that value. Otherwise, you're in that hamster wheel of volume coming before value.
Yeah, wholeheartedly agree. And for those that don't know, he referenced Ron Baker, books Time's Up. Ron wrote a great book about it. So if you guys want more details, I'd recommend going there. Seth, the last question I wanted to ask, within 1,000 feet, how many feet are within a mile? You said 5,400. I think it's 5,280, 5,300. My research again was awful. But either way, that's actually going to lead us into our halftime. Do you want to make $10,000 today? Do you want to lose 20 pounds in the next month? Do you want to be well-liked and respected by all your peers? We can't help you with that. You've come to the wrong place. But if you do want to earn an hour of CPE credit for listening to this episode, right after you finish, head on over to the Earmark app, take a short 5-question quiz, and you earn 1 hour of CPE just for listening to us. Happy quizzing! Because normally we go to the sidelines at this part of the show and get ourselves a nice little app snack. But today I wanted to deviate a little with our app snack because Mile High City, you talked about bridging the gap, which is where that conference is going to be this year in Denver, our Mile High City. I'm curious, amongst that one, what other conferences are you hitting this year? Where can people see Seth Fineberg speaking, talking? Where can they, see you shaking babies and kissing hands, or flip that?
Hanging out by the bar.
There you go.
So the ones at the moment that I'm looking to be at are, let's see, Firm Growth Forum, Engage,
May,
possibly Scaling New Heights. Because of the clients that I work with, it's like that's kind of opened up some other doors for me. So it's like if they need me, like where they're going, I'll be there. But the ones I'm planning on, so those I mentioned, Engage, Bridging the Gap, of course.
XeroCon, Intuit Connect.
Intuit Connect. If it's happening this year, I'm hearing some rumors it might not, but I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I think it is. I mean, I think that they're already planning on it. Possibly Hector Garcia's Reframe. I'm considering that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And then Digital CPA. And then Digital CPA at the end of the year.
If someone's starting out a brand new firm right now, solo CPA, solo bookkeeper, where would you tell them the one conference you think they should get their feet wet at?
Bridging the Gap.
You heard it here, folks. See you all in Denver.
If you're starting out and you just really want to connect with the how-to and the why and just really just get the good feels for it as well as the practical, bridging, 1,000%.
Awesome. Well, Seth, thank you for joining us. Before we let you escape and let you run to the hills saying free at last, free at last. Anything else you want to tell the listener, or both our listeners actually, about just, anything about Seth Fineberg, any of the speaking, or any advice?
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, you can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active there. You can go to my website, sethfineberg.com, or Accountants Forward. Either way, you'll get directed. Sign up for my newsletter. I'll only clog up your inbox once a week. And it's usually, some info related to some of the folks I'm working with, also my own thoughts of the day on things. It's just a good mix of that, a little bit of news and some views in there. And, as far as the accountants out there, if you don't love what you do, find a way to do that. Connect with other colleagues. I mean, it's such a large community, you all need each other to move forward.
Mhm.
The whole adage about going further together is really on display in the accounting profession. I truly see this in the amount of time that I've put in, the amount of years I've put in being among you. I've seen how much of a community you are and how much you care about the clients that you serve, the work that you do, and each other. So lean on someone, especially when you're feeling maybe at the most stressed out, burnt out, what have you. Know who to call, know who to reach out to. They'll get you through because they've probably been through it or are going through it themselves and would love to hear from you. That's my final, advice. Find the joy in what you do.
Yeah. Couldn't say better.
Well, Seth, thank you so much for joining us, sir. Yeah, good luck getting off the island, you and Gilligan and the crew. And we'll see you at the upcoming conference. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, we got the professor working on some bamboo raft out there at the moment, so we'll see how that works.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.
See you guys.
All right. Well, that was fantastic. Wow, that guy has a noggin on him and such good drops of info. Let's get to a game, though. I'm pretty excited about this game. And then been in the news again lately and was a campaign focus on not taxing tip income. So we're going to play a little game that I like to call Just the Tip.
For our listeners or listener, Jeremy and I keep track of all of our games and whatnot in a Notion database. And all I see is the agenda. I see the name of his segments, but I see nothing else. I'm always scared when I see what Jeremy has put on the agenda for an episode.
And I'm going to dig into this in a second. But I had this done a couple days ago, and we do prep a little bit, right, for the show. And then, do you ever watch Last Week Tonight with John Oliver? I love that
John
show.
Oliver.
He's amazing. But then his main section of the one he just did, I think Sunday night, was all about tipping. And I will not be as funny as him on some of the quips here, but important thing to know. So tips, as we all know it, extra income, they're everywhere now, right? The funny clip that he had in that is there was like a robot checkout thing that when you're done now, the robot asks if you'll tip it at the end. And you're like, oh man, is that ridiculous? But one of the big campaign points was, I think Trump came out with this first, is like, we're not going to tax tips, right? And then Kamala
tips and overtime.
Thing. Yeah, right? So just wanted to ask a couple questions about tips and then maybe think about if this will be good or bad for things. So the first part of this is going to be some true, false, but instead of true, it's tip. If it's false, it's a trap. So the first one, starting, all tips received by employees must be reported as taxable income. Tip or trap?
I'm going to say tip.
That's a tip. Right. 100%. And the next one, employers are responsible for withholding payroll taxes on reported tips.
I'm also going to say tip.
Correct. All right. So getting out of the gate good here. Let's keep going.
Okay.
If an employee doesn't report their tips, the employer has no obligation to track them.
I'm going to say that's correct. So tip?
Nope, that's a trap. So the IRS can estimate unreported tips if they think it's not accurate. There's nobody there to do this, but they can. And the employer could be held responsible for that.
But I remember when I was waiting tables, my manager at the end of every shift would say, how much did you make? And I would just be like, $57 in tips, $80 in tips. So you're saying if I just told them, oh, only $20, and just round down, the employer's still liable?
Employer's still liable, but then the IRS would have to prove somehow that this wasn't reported right.
Because I had to report my cash tips. So no one could go back and say, yes, Tyler, you got more in cash tips than you reported.
Right. Correct. Okay. But then theoretically should be out there. So another thing on the tip front is tip pooling, right? And if you know what that is, can we talk about tip pooling?
Yeah, put something in the jar and it gets split amongst all the team members at the end of the shift.
Right. So tip pooling is illegal in all circumstances.
I'm going to go trap.
Correct. And one of the things on John Oliver's thing that was very interesting is that happens regardless sometimes of the amount of tips that the server receives, right? Is that if she gets stiffed by a table, she is still required at the end of the day of her total amount of pay that 5% of this or whatever goes to the servers or the cooks, whatever. So she's like, it's almost like I am paying for the other staff if I'm not making enough on my tips, which just is ridiculous, right? What would I have next here? So we're going to go to some other questions. What is the IRS form? This is a good faster figures question that you're supposed to use to record allocated tips.
For a business?
Yes. No, yeah, employer. Yeah, employer's annual information return.
Okay, so it's on the business's return is what you're saying.
Good question.
Form 8675309.
Oh, actually close. I thought you were going to get it there for a second. 8027 is that form. And then what minimum percentage of sales can the IRS assume servers make in tips? This is where it comes in.
You talk dirty to me like this.
Ooh, yes.
What percentage of sale? So, like, what percentage of the sales do they make in tips? I mean, are you going to guess the good old classic 15?
So this is, again, the minimum if they would come in and think you're unreporting is 8, is what the number is. Not right.
Okay.
Yeah, but it varies by industry as well. So just some background there, but then think about this overall as a concept. So what is the federal minimum wage, Tyler?
Is it still $7.25?
$7.25 and has not changed since 1991. I think that's been, was it Visadata, Visalabs? Isn't that what?
VisiCalc, and you all got angry over that, okay? Because okay, does anyone else not look up the history of spreadsheets once you get deep enough into them? Like, sorry. The amount of hate I received over the VisiCalc comment, like, I'm ready to quit this show and go on a campaign here. Sorry. Go on. 1991. I'm derailing.
And you're using your green Apple II to make things and making $7.25 an hour. That hasn't changed. But the sub-minimum wage, when you get tips, do you know what that minimum is?
Isn't it like $3.50 or something?
It is $2.13 an hour.
Gosh.
So there are like 8 states where they don't have the sub minimum wage. So everybody, even tipped employees, start at at least $7.25. Mm-hmm. But you think maybe not taxing these tips and maybe you should just raise the federal minimum wage could be a better way to address people not making enough money. And that way I don't get asked to tip a robot in the self-checkout when I'm done doing the thing that they were supposed to do for me in a human. I don't know. Can
I also just say, I went to dinner last night, and I do not love the Toast handheld devices, where now I have to do the tip while the server's standing there waiting on me to do it on an electric pad while they're waiting for me to give it back. And it's like, they can tell I didn't hit one of the quick buttons, because the quick buttons were 25, 30, and 35. And it's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm just, let's pay people a wage. Let's get rid of tipping. I hate tipping.
Yeah. And there's like, if you go to other countries and you leave money afterwards, they're like, hey, you forgot your $5, right? They're not like, you left that. Like, it can't happen. We pay people reasonable wages. This is okay. So
I'm going to tell my bookkeeping staff now, hey, we're dropping wages, but you guys can accept tips. Good luck.
Yeah, right. Let's see how that goes. And you lose them. You lost employees. I can't imagine when you treat them so well. How that happened.
Too soon, Jeremy. That stings.
Oh, stings just a little bit. Anyway, all right. Just some quick stuff about tips.
Thank you, Jeremy. Now we move on to another game. Nope, just kidding. We ran out of time. Let's push that one to next week. But I got a game ready, which is good because now I don't need to do any prep for that slot next week. We're good. Yeah. So really, all that brings us to winner of the week.
Very conflicted in this episode. I'm going to say the winner of the week may be the U.S. taxpayer. Did you see the tax bill that Berkshire Hathaway had to pay, the most paid by any organization ever for 2024? They had to pay in tax based on their results in corporate income tax. I will give you $1 billion swing here on how much they have to pay.
$7 billion.
$26.8 billion, the highest ever that they had to pay. And so the winner, I really feel like this, is Warren Buffett, who said, I am absolutely happy to pay this because a lot of the reason they had to pay it is they pulled out of their stakes of a lot of their winners that they've been in, like Apple, and I forget what some of the other ones, but they sold it off, so had to play the corporate gains. And he's like, all I hope is that it is used to help out the American people in every way possible, or something very similar to that. So to me, that's a stand-up dude. Is like, we know we made a whole bunch of money. We're going to pay the amount that we should on it. And I think his quoting words were, I hope I have to pay more than that someday. Right? Like, that's amazing.
I mean, I respect it, but also, I mean, as I said, I looked at my Monarch account and I feel like, wow, he probably feels pretty good getting out of the market right before these last few days. We're recording on March 5th, which, great day, March 5th. Mark it on your calendar every year.
Oh, I didn't bring it up at the beginning. It's Tyler's birthday. Happy birthday. You look as old as ever.
I know. Gained a few pounds, gained a few years, whatever.
Right.
Jeremy, I want to take our loser of the day because I don't know if you've seen the outrage, but I'm saying Xero is today's loser.
Ooh, okay.
So I don't know if you know this, but every single platform, QuickBooks, Xero, they're always making updates. And a lot of times that software runs on old school models, old school data rails that just isn't viable long term. And so Xero, like QuickBooks, like a lot of other people, they build new platforms and you move from old payroll to new payroll or old bill pay to new bill pay. Well, Xero had an invoicing page that worked. Accountants could do data entry pretty quick. You could tab around. It was very user-friendly and intuitive. It wasn't new and sexy looking, but it was easy to navigate quickly and get stuff done. Well, Xero, for a while, released new invoicing, new AR, and they had this out for a good while, and people could use old or new, and they were updating both of them. And pretty much they told all their users, hey, we're getting rid of old invoicing, and they cut everyone off. Ooh. Accountants are livid because it's great if you just change the format, but it still works. But nothing works with a keyboard anymore. You have to point and click to change every cell. You can't do from drop downs. Like, they pretty much took those of us that love living on a keyboard and being fast and efficient. They negated any of your efficiencies. And I don't know if you've seen this, but there are a lot of people livid with Xero. And Xero even responded to one of these LinkedIn comments, and they're just like, yeah, sorry, we couldn't support both of them anymore. So, we had to cut off one of them and did nothing to address the concerns. Yeah, Xero, I'm saying, is to this week's loser.
How does that get through beta testing, right? Like, you can't tell me you put that in a hand of 10 accountants, and they're like, this is fantastic. I don't know.
This is a great idea.
Yeah.
Terrible. So, Jeremy, with that said, we are running long this week, so let's call it. I will see you next week, sir. Hopefully I'll convince you to come with me to San Diego here soon. But beyond that, good luck at surviving tax season. We're almost there, man.
Absolutely. And happy birthday.
Thank you. Hey team, this message is for our bookkeeping buddies out there. And I know when my firm offered only bookkeeping, it was super hard to find a tax preparer to partner with. Well, if that's you, look no further. Me and my team at Specialized Accounting are looking for bookkeeping to partner with. We will do the tax planning and preparation for your clients, and you keep doing the bookkeeping. No longer have fears of working with a tax preparer that doesn't know what they're doing, or live in fear of them stealing your clients. Me and my team, we want to continue to grow, and I want to continue to grow Unaccountable without growing the name that we steal clients. So we would love to partner with you. If you're interested in working with our team to do the taxes for your clients, reach out to hello@specializedat.com. That's Specialized Accounting and Tax, specializedat.com. See you soon.